This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson On Demand.
What is the best sandwich? Not specific restaurants or fast food joints, but just what is the best sandwich overall? Reuben, peanut butter and jelly, ham and Swiss, the Cuban. What is the best? Now, I saw this website that came to some really bad conclusions about what the world's best sandwich is. So I put it on my blog at 700WLW.com. If you go there, please chime in. I'm eventually going to tally these all up. We're going to try to find, early next week, the best sandwich. Is it a burger? Yeah, not specific places, but just in general. Burger, peanut butter and jelly. Club sandwich? How about a BLT? That's pretty high on my list as well. It's all on the blog at 700WLW.com. While you're there, you can find the database where you can check the academic scores, the report card for local school districts and individual schools, how they have been rated. You do it every year. Some of them went up, some of them maintained, some of them went down. You check out your school district, maybe a neighboring school district. Check out some of the school districts that you hear in the news all the time. The majority of Southwest Ohio's 49 school districts either improved or maintained. This is their annual Ohio report card rating. They either maintained or improved. In fact, I hear a lot of school districts out there puffing up their chest and patting themselves on the back. A lot of those administrators are very proud of it. Well, let's face it. They're doing it so they look good. There's a whole lot of them that are, it's about them. It's not about the kids, not about the district. They don't have some great love of your school district or your city or your community. No, in fact, a lot of them travel around. They're not proud. They're not happy for the kids. They're happy for themselves. They're happy because they say, look at what I've achieved. There's nothing wrong with saying what you've achieved. But here's what I want you to remember. As you hear all the stories rolled out, you'll probably hear more of them this weekend. This school district did excellent with distinction. They maintained their great rating. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks as you go to these school board meetings, you'll hear them bring it up. Add one other note. Our school district maintained our excellent rating. Oh, they'll roll that out. Everything is great. But a lot of these school districts have seen less money. A lot of them have cut teachers, cut programs. These are the same programs, teachers, and lack of money coming in that they've told us would decimate the schools. You don't want to lose our excellent rating, do you? Well, then you better vote for this levy. It's about the children. Do you want them to suffer? Do you want our school to lose our excellent rating? Well, you better vote for that levy. Otherwise, we're going to have to lay off teachers. What's that going to do to our rating? You don't want us to lay off teachers and lose the rating. Do you want us to cut programs where kids would not have access to those things and we could lose our rating? That's what we've heard over and over and over ad nauseum for years. Well, the last couple of years, we've seen cuts. We've seen school districts cut programs and teachers, busing, pay to play, all kinds of things that required less money. In order to balance the budgets, they took in less money. They had to spend and do with less money. Yet, most of them maintained or improved their standings. How is that possible? The people that say we've got to pour the money into it and you keep supporting all of these, we need those levies, Doc. Do you want us to lose our rating? Well, wait a minute. Guess what? We forced you to do with cuts because we don't have the same monies that we used to. You were forced to do it. And look, some of you not only maintained, you did better. How come nobody brings that up? Am I the only one that's noticed this? This is hilarious. This is hilarious. The same people that told us that the schools would be decimated if you didn't pass a bunch of levies are the same people promoting what a great job that they have done. And I agree with them. You have done with less money, and you have maintained or improved your academic performance based on this report card. Good, excellent. That's not easy. I am giving you all the all the credit you deserve. Administrators and teachers, listen to me. It's not easy to do with less money when you go to work every day and still have to perform. Trust me, I know. I have been dealing with this for about 12 years or so in my industry. It was always a struggle in this industry. But in the last 10, 12 years, it has gotten even worse. Every year, less and less money, not for just salaries. I'm not talking about that, which that's been a part of it, but for equipment and promotions and all of these other things. It's not easy. People doing double, triple duty when they used to have 4 people to do one job. And you have performed beautifully. You have done without it. You've put in the time, and you should be commended for it. But I want to point out, you also told us the end of the world was coming. You told us that all hell was going to break loose. You said that this is it. It's going to be over, Doc. You don't understand. And I said, listen, I've told that story. When my industry started going through this transition, partially because of technology and deregulation, all of these things, we transitioned into a very different industry where, because of equipment, automation systems are more popular. You can beam people in. I mean, maybe in Guatemala doing a show and you think they're, sitting downtown Cincinnati. Because of these things, they continued to downsize. And the first couple of years when they downsized, and I've told you this before, when they downsized our companies, we actually did better. It wasn't even close. They forced us to be innovative because we had less people and less money. It wasn't, huge, cuts by like 3/4 or something, but they were significant cuts. And we performed better. We did more. We were more creative. We found ways to get things done, and we performed much better. And this was true for several years, several rounds of cuts. I would say a minimum of 2 to 3 years, we actually did better. At some point, those cuts got tricky, and we started turning out less of a product. That's, in general, we weren't able to do all the things we used to do. But for the first couple of years, we did better. And it seems to be holding true here. Districts that are actually doing better, even though they laid off teachers. They cut programs, laid off administrators. Some of them cut back on busing. And that affects you, the parent. So for whatever the reasons, they were able to do this. But as they tout their successes over the last couple of years, and they say, look, we maintained our great rating. We improved it. They may even tell you they did it in spite of those cuts. But I say they were able to do it partially because of those cuts. And I want to make sure that it's tied together. As you and I are asked repeatedly, every election, multiple times a year, to give them more money. We got the old SB 5 issue 2 coming up again. Governor is asking this morning for a bunch of the people who are asking for the repeal of issue 2, now known as issue 2, used to be SB 5. They get together and we're talking about unions, and step increases are a part of that, and teachers. It's all tied together. You think they're going to bring that up? Will that be brought up, that the schools actually did better? So what is your motivation if you're a teacher and administrator? What is your goal? I would hope it's the same goal that we all have, to provide the best education, bar none, on the planet, so nobody is even close. And do it as efficiently and effectively as possible, where we pay as little as possible for that. That should be our goal, right? It's pretty simple. Now, sometimes those things are in conflict, right? Pay as little as possible and get the best education. I understand that's tricky at times. But if those are your goals, to provide a great education, and we have cut teachers because we did not approve levies, because we did not agree to tax ourselves more, guess what? It worked. It worked. Are you celebrating that today, teachers and administrators? Are you out there saying, guess what? Doc's plan actually worked. We are actually more efficient now. We actually achieved. We maintained even though we lost people and programs. We improved even though we lost them. I hope they're talking about that today. I bet they probably are not. They said they're going to spin it that they did it in spite of this. Well, even if you did it in spite of those cuts, guess what? Those monies and those levies were not needed, were they? Because you were able to do. You kept your great rating or you did better. Money is not the problem. You just proved it. Now, I've known that money is not the problem for many, many years because we have thrown money at education since the 70s. We have, in some areas, tripled it, definitely doubled what we spend on education as a country, and we have seen no great increase in results. We have significantly increased spending in education in America. That is not a question. And when you look at the results, they are very close to what they always were. Some improvements in some areas, and some ways you rate them. They may go up a little bit, some areas down a little bit, whether it's test scores or the number of kids graduating from school, whatever. Since the 70s, there's been no significant improvement, yet there has been a significant increase in money. So I've known that. That's a fact. In fact, educated educators or administrators, superintendents, politicians, they know that too. They understand it as well. They get all that, but here's yet another example. So, are you going to think about this? Will this influence how you vote on any upcoming levies? Already they pouring it on the ballot. Levies this fall. Let me see here. Let's take Mount Healthy, for example. Mount Healthy, the voters shot down a levy, and the next day, we're putting another levy on. The next day. Yet they were able to maintain their continuous improvement rating. Oh, I'm sure it needs to be better. Of course, I'm not suggesting that's a good one, but they maintained it. Right? So obviously money's not the issue. Lakota School actually went up. Excellent with distinction is their rating now. Of the 49 districts, most of them improved or maintained. Is that going to influence how you vote on upcoming levies, or did it even matter? I think it's hilarious. It's all about the spin, though. They'll have to put the spin on it. Doc, we did it in spite of that. Well, you still didn't need the money anyway. You still accomplished it, didn't you? And sometimes in life, when we're forced into those things we don't want to do, it ends up being better, doesn't it? So money's not the problem. Can we get beyond that now? Of course we can't, because they're still going to go in there and fight for all the dollars they can get. And I understand that. You want to make as much money as you can. But I wish we could get beyond it. Agree that money's not the issue. And what is the issue? All of the other structure, the structure in general, all of the other things. How we educate and whether or not we're using technology. I get some of your calls coming up, 749-7000, 800 the big one, or pound 700 on AT&T. Does this influence how you vote on levies? Does it change your mind? Or is it about what you expected? How about laptops for kids? You ready for every kid to get a laptop? Every kid to get an iPad? Is that really what's lacking? iPads for kids? I'll tell you about that coming up next on the big one, 700 WLW. Boy, the Reuben is kicking butt. Oh, people are just suggesting Reuben across the board. I know I love Reuben. They'd be top of my list. Maybe not number one, but very high. And people are saying Reuben is the best sandwich out there. You can suggest what your favorite is on my blog at 700WLW.com. And while you're there, enter in your school district to find out what their rating is for the state's report card. It's up there. You can do any of them in the state by district, county, what have you. I just think it's funny that some of these districts that complained that were so upset about losing money, which I know is not easy, are also districts that either maintained or increased their rating. Mike, Liberty, you're on the big one. Hello, Mike. Are you there? Going once, going twice. Forrest in Fort Wayne, how you doing?
Hi there, Doc. Thank you for taking my call. I got to thinking about the topic that you brought up today, money in schools and outcome. Joplin, Missouri, I saw some news items. Those kids are being taught in shopping malls and everything else. Those people are motivated, and I would really be interested to see how well all of these kids do. And I think that they're going to basically just go in contrast to the popular notions of throwing money and everything else at these kids.
That is an excellent point for us. That is an incredible. I saw the pictures too. You're right. And these kids they're going to be driven to learn because they have such a passion, because they've gone through so much and they don't have a school. So they've got this extra sense of pride. It's going to motivate them.
I would hope. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think it would be a really cool thing if somebody like Frontline or someone would do a documentary about this and capture all the data and then reveal it.
That is an excellent point. I appreciate your call and your suggestion. That's part of the problem. Our kids are spoiled now. You go into the school, they build these cathedrals. We don't demand excellence from them. We lower the bar to help them over it because my little snowflake is smart, but they just need a little extra help and all of this garbage. Instead of saying, go in there and achieve because your reward will be learning. Your reward is not just a great job. In fact, that's probably second to learning. Why do you think kids do so well or fight to go to school in some of these impoverished countries? Well, they'd rather be there, first of all, than being beaten or they're starving somewhere, but they're stimulated. Our kids, I hate school. They don't hate school. They don't hate to learn. They may hate the school or the teachers or the structure. Most of them do not hate learning. We have built that in their head. We have taught kids to hate learning. In some ways, it's because they're coddled. These kids in Missouri, I'll bet they do quite well. I think they're going to just kick it. So if money isn't the issue, and yesterday I talked about people not going to college and achieving. You can get a great job and you can make a lot of money and you can continue to learn even if you don't go to college. But now we've got this attitude that everyone has to go to college. If that's so important, and if learning is so important, and they expect you and I to throw money at local schools, public schools, but as well as universities. Oh, state universities. Oh, they're clamoring for cash always too. We got to go ahead and prop them up, right? And we need to send more kids to college and we got to pay for it. How come those colleges are not paying for the kids? Many of these colleges have endowments and they get alumni gifts and whatever. How come they're not lowering their tuition? Well, Doc, they can't afford it. You know, money's tight. No, it's not tight. It's tight for you and I. But many of these universities, it's not tight. In fact, coming up next, I've got some examples of universities who are deep in cash. Yet, their tuition keeps going up. If they really want people to learn and if their outcome is to educate as many as possible, how come they're spending the money on other things? I'll give you the details next on the big one. 700 WLW. Check out Lance's deal of the day at 700WLW.com. You'll get two $10 gift certificates to Flippin' Jimmy's Burgers and Chunks for the price of one. That's Lance's deal of the day. It's today, 700WLW.com. Flippin' Jimmy's just opened in Covington, and all you have to do is go to 700WLW.com, click on Lance's deal of the day to save right now. This is hilarious. Hilarious. About a fourth, about 25% of all Southwest Ohio school districts are going to have a levy on the ballot this November. Some of them, for the I don't know how many times, Little Miami, I think, is 9th time. Some of them fail after election after election. They still put it back on there. But this will be higher than most years. This fall, this November will be higher than most years, most elections. About a fourth. And yet, some of those school districts, most of the school districts in the area maintained or improved their rating with less money. Why are you asking for more money then? How are you justifying putting a levy on the ballot? What did you lose? Is it about the kids? Well, you've been doing it. Now, there are some circumstances where it has to do with buildings and other things. It's not just about the salaries that are going to, or monies that are going to salaries and programs. But that's certainly something to factor in there. How do you think they'll do next year? Now, eventually, if you keep cutting and cutting and cutting, and you have one person teaching 1,000 kids, yeah, you're probably going to suffer a little bit there. But I still think there's room to cut, room to become more efficient. Who knows, we may even get a better product. So if college is that important and education is that important, and they keep telling us it's all about money, to the point that you and I are asked to continue to fund college, state universities, which I think is a ridiculous notion. Tells everybody's got to go to college. And who are the people telling us that? The colleges, the people who work there. Why? So they can continue with their jobs and to grow their company and their school and their industry. Because if it were really about the education, shouldn't those universities then do everything they can to lower tuition? I mean, shouldn't it be darn near free? You've got endowments, millions upon millions in endowments, alumni gifts. They should be doing everything they can to make it as cheap as possible, but it's not. In fact, college tuition has gone up steadily. For private schools, they have now, for the most part, crested the $40,000 a year barrier. More than most families earn. Now, those are private schools there. 2/3 of undergraduates are now going into debt. 2/3 start off in the workforce in debt. College loans are nearing the $1 trillion mark, more than what all households owe on their credit cards. If you added up what all Americans owe on their credit cards, it's less than the amount owed for college loans. Tuition keeps going up. Doc, you don't know what it takes to run a university, really? Is it all about running it? Well, not from what I can see. Just to give you a couple examples, Kenyon, they erected a $70 million sports palace that has a 20-lane Olympic pool. Well, maybe that goes into, athletics. And Stanford's professors now get a paid sabbatical every 4th year. They work 3 years, they get the 4th year off. At Stanford. Paid, absolutely. Well, you know what it's like to have to work 4 years in a row, right? I mean, after 3, you need a year off. They make $115,000 a year. They make $115,000 a year. Professors at Stanford, they work 3 years, they get the 4th off. That's in addition to bonuses, benefits, graduate students teaching some of their classes, grading papers, all of these things. Every 4th year. Wouldn't you like to see that money actually go to the kids so they can get educated? Vanderbilt pays its president, the president of Vanderbilt, makes $2.4 million a year. They have alumni gifts, endowments into the millions, some of them actually into the billions. And yet they continue to increase the cost of tuition, telling you and I that every kid needs to go to college, not learn, not get educated, needs to go to college. And they continue, if they are A university gets state money, well, you got to continue to fund us and get more. When we talk about public employees, some of the highest paid public employees are those at universities. The presidents of university, deans, the professors, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, while you and I complain that a teacher's salary is going up by, $1,000 a year or whatever. Not that those aren't problems, they are at times. But teachers, cops, firefighters, as much as those can be an issue if you're protecting bad employees, and sometimes we don't have the money, most of the money is not being spent on you. Most of it, when you look at the overspending, if you look at the highest paid, it's often the people who work for the universities. Even though they have huge endowments, as I said, employee gifts, they just pour money on them. They continue to build all these things and increase tuition. They're not being run efficiently. Some of your calls coming up. Doc Thompson, 700 WLW. Got an email from Jason. He said, Stanford is a private university. Why should we care about their staffing policies? Well, I don't if it doesn't cost me money, except for they're supposed to care most about education. In fact, I'm sure most of their professors, people in academia at Stanford and everywhere else will tell you how important education is. They look down their nose at people and they promote the idea that all kids need to go to college, which is fine. Education is a good thing. Learning is a good thing. But they're being hypocrites. Because if they really cared about education, they would stop building monuments. They would stop paying their dean, their president, $2.4 million and pay them, a few $100,000? That's not good enough? And then provide that for education. Now, I care not what a private individual makes if I'm not paying for it. I care about their hypocrisy. These are also some of the same people who want to go after those ultra-rich people for making too much money. And at the same time, tell us they care about educating kids or providing for a good college experience. Well, if I go into debt by $60,000, that's not the best experience now, is it? They're being hypocrites is the reason I care. But if you want to talk private colleges, look around. Go, or public ones. Look around. Look on their campuses. Look at the gargantuan buildings. And look at what the professors make. That is our cash. Let's go to Casey in Dayton. You're on the big one, 700 WLW. Hello, Casey. Are you there? Oh. Casey, are you there? Yes. How are you?
I am here. Hey, just wanted to, take you to task as usual. So let's get this straight. So people are that went into education and public education really aren't in it for the kids. That's all just a cover for their own personal greed so they can have a good pension and make $3,000.
Some, yes.
$3,000 more than the private sector?
Some, yes.
Wow, what a big controversy worth exposing. Glad we got Doc Thompson on the job. Yeah, why
some are in it for themselves, and if I'm paying their salary, which they are employees of all of ours, then yes, I care about that. Just as if I owned a business, I would care as well.
Right. Anybody that gets taxpayer dollars, any schools that get somewhat funded by the states, they're all just fair game for you to talk about. Yet,
yes, because they're my employee. If you own a business, it doesn't affect me. Go, have at it. Pay them what you want. If you're in the private sector, go. It doesn't affect me. If I own the business, yes, I care about those things, as we all should care about because they're all of our employees.
Only in the world of a Republican does, with declining education and results in education,
I can't speak for Republicans, Rich. Casey, I can't speak for Republicans.
Obviously, you do every day.
No, I do not. I speak for myself.
Yeah, I know. Conservative, right? I know. We know. You changed your name. You're not You're not Republicans now. You're conservatives. I got it.
Casey, I'm not a Republican. I speak for myself, and I speak the truth. I tell you what's right and wrong. You're just somebody that likes the idea of taking a bunch of money from those rich people because you're jealous of what they have and taking it for yourself. That's all. That's it. I do not think that way. If you do, well, that's your business. Rich Hoffman, how are you, sir? You heard me talking about Lakota. You got you guys maintained, even though you've had to cut.
That's right. That's exactly right. The reason I called here is that last caller. I couldn't just sit there and listen to that. That's all you're doing is bringing up a fact. that all these public sector groups, schools, whatever, are going through the same thing that we all go through, the same growing pains, and you learn
That's
you can
it.
do more with less. That's it. And it is hilarious when you hear, it's all going to fall off a cliff. It's doomsday. You sail out and you're going to fall off the edge of the Atlantic Ocean because out there's nothing. And it's all going to come to an end if you don't pay us money. And, hey, it's doing fine. It's doing what it's supposed to do. That's called management.
Right. And Rich, and I applaud them, by the way. The administrators and teachers who actually maintained in spite of losing and probably doing some extra work. God bless you. You deserve to be commended. I know what that's like. I've had to do it. Other people in my industry and other industries had to do it as well. God bless you. You have done a good job.
And those kind of the ones that do perform and do find a way to make it go, those are the ones who are worth the money.
Absolutely.
So we have to find a system that weeds out those, like the guy that just called, people who want to apologize and think that just because they went and obtained a master's degree and they get their steps and they're going through the emotions.
But see, you got to understand about Casey, Rich. You got to understand about Casey. He's not for the teachers. He's not one of them. He's not whatever. He's somebody who is unfortunately just jealous of what some people have, and he wants to go get it from them. The teachers are not like that. Most of the teachers are people just saying, I want to make a good living. I like what I do. There are some greedy, and those are the people that don't want to perform, and those are the ones that you try to weed out, but unfortunately you can because of, of things like union protection. Rich, I appreciate you calling. I got to skate because I got to get to our headlines of the week. It's coming up next on 700 WLW. Now our headlines of the week. We do it every Friday about this time. Out of Clinton County, one that came in just after I did it last week. Restroom facility at county jail vandalized. Cops have nothing to go on. Out of Florida, naked sword fight lands attorney in jail. Naked sword fight. Assuming there's no euphemism there, that's a really bad idea. Out of Detroit, world's biggest stove burns to the ground. Out of Australia, pilot and stewardess fired over cockpit sex. Come on, can you blame them? They got a little confused by the name there, right? I'll meet you in the cockpit. Out of the UK, car hit by flying cow. Out of Oregon, during robbery, man shot in the butt. Out of Texas, dog comes home with human hand. That's going to be a bad day for you. Out of Seattle, mother gets probation in home circumcision. Out of D.C., we must study porn to defeat Al-Qaeda. St. Louis, 30 taken into custody at Yes We Can Social Club. Out of Philadelphia, girl stabbed at Philly mayor's anti-violence event. She was stabbed at the anti-violence event. Out of Oakland, officer shoots public urination suspect after scuffle. Out of Texas, police chases shirtless man on forklift. Out of Washington, man arrested for fishing nude. Wait a minute. What was he hoping to catch? And what was he using for bait? Also out of the state of Washington, fight over parking space leads to 6-hour standoff. Out of Russia, Russia debuts new stealth fighter at air show. You're debuting a stealth fighter at an air show. How is that stealth-like? Here it is. Here's the secret stealth fighter that we want to keep invisible. Yep. Right here. Out of Scottsdale, Arizona, man wearing suit and fedora robs bank. Very cosmopolitan. Out of the UK, bride sees groom eaten by shark. California, FBI takes the wig off of bad hair bandit. Out of Australia, stores warn employees, sell powdered kangaroo testicles and get fired. See, that is disgusting. Powdered kangaroo testicles? You got to get those things fresh, man. Powdered, that's disgusting. And the best one of the week, out of Big Beaver, Pennsylvania. Police seek X in robbery of Big Beaver exotic dancer. Police seek X in robbery of Big Beaver exotic dancer. That does sound exotic. Doc Thompson on the home of the Reds, 700 WLW.